Hello, guys, and welcome back to the LFC Transfer Room for another edition of Transfer Central. Today, joined by three lovely gentlemen, FJ, Colin, Stephen. Stephen, I'll start with you. It's been a busy week for you on the LFC Transfer Room. How are you finding your first week, getting straight involved?
Yeah, it's good. I've always kind of wanted to do this, and I've been encouraged by other people to go and do it because it's something I love talking about. Not only football as well. I very much like talking about other sports. I know FJ was saying there as well that he likes watching American sports. I love my basketball. I love my American football as well. So it's something that I've always thought about getting into. And when the opportunity to come up and join you guys came along, I said I better grab it with both hands and kind of get my feet wet a little bit. And what better way to do that than being on 4 podcasts in a week?
Yeah, definitely. It's been a pleasure having you on. But
Thank
Colin,
you.
how are you doing today, mate?
Lovely. Happy to be on. I love my Sunday streams. Happy to be here with the boys.
Yeah, definitely. Well, speaking of Sunday streams, Mr. FJ. Won't spoil it right now, but for future Sundays, FJ and a new member of the team will be doing a bit of a special show on Sundays. So, well, FJ, how you doing today, mate?
Feeling all right. Sundays are the best day. Today, the chilled out days, the relaxed days, the best days to get in there, But I'm all right. I'm ready to give you guys nice, great content. Nice content. 7:30. I told them every 7:30, be here. Be here. I told them. Oh, we're here now anyway. How
Yeah,
you doing, Charlie? How are you doing?
yeah, I'm good, man. It's been thunder and lightning all day.
Is it
So it's a
raining even
teaming down, yeah. So it's been a bit of a humid one, if I'm not gonna lie. So if you see some sweat droplets off me, that's why.
there?
Um, I have put this shirt on just for the stream, so I'm getting a bit warm. But hello to everybody joining: David, Jen, as usual. Thank you so much for the £10 super sticker. We massively appreciate it. As I always say, get pumped right back into the channel to make content for you guys. But everyone else who's joining, get your comments in. Gonna have you know how we like to do it on Transfer Central. Have a bit of fun. FJ with his 100% energy. So yeah, it's been a bit of a quiet week transfer wise. Not too much big stuff. Kind of everything seemed to happen last week with the Sabozlai stuff. So maybe George A. Schmack, whatever you say his name, is taking a little bit of a break. Next week we might be firing back, but we do have a few things to talk about still. And again, as usual, if you guys want, get your comments in. So yeah, Nelson, I'm not too sure if somebody else can, confirm that you can hear us. That would be ideal. But we will start with Romeo Lavia. Stephen, feel like we've spoke about Romeo Lavia every single day. Bit of a decent update though today from Florian Plettenberg saying Jurgen Klopp really, really wants him. He's the midfielder that Liverpool, want now. We've been linked with obviously Kevin Turam, who it's kind of gone. Yeah, Nelson, sorry, mate. I don't know what's happening on your end, but our lovely Jen can hear us. But now it kind of seems like Romeo Lavia is the one if we were to get a third midfielder. Conflicting reports everywhere, to be fair. There's James Pearce saying we're not getting a third midfielder. There's other people saying we will get a third midfielder if somebody's sold. And there's other people who are just saying we're getting a third midfielder. But Romeo Lavia, I'm sure you've given your thoughts on him a lot, but does seem like Southampton are sticking to that £50 million fee. Think Liverpool can maybe work something around?
Yes, I think they can. It's been spoken about an awful lot over the past week since more and more drama has come out about Kylian Mbappe. We've spoken about him a lot, and I feel like I'm going blue in the face from speaking about him. That's the domino that's waiting to fall before everybody starts pulling deals out of everywhere. There's talks going on behind closed doors right now that we're not even the journalists or even Fabrizio Romano and all of his wisdom is privy to, I'm sure. It's seemingly getting more and more likely that Romeo Lavia will be the next guy through the door. Earlier on in the week, I wasn't his biggest fan, but it's not so much that I've turned. It's more I wasn't his biggest fan of £50 million. If that drops by £15 million, no problem. we can live with that. Opposed to that, as you can see in the title, we have Marcos Llorente as well. That's a bit of interest. He is a bit of an older option. It doesn't necessarily solve the homegrown option, but at per transfer market, it says he's about 35 million euro, 40 million euro. So that could work out to be a little bit cheaper option if we wanted to go that route. He does focus as a central midfielder. But with Romeo Lavia, he could be one for the future if we do get him. He could sort of sit alongside Stefan in the role behind Fabinho and work as his understudy for the next season or two. And we kind of play it out between the two of them to compete for minutes. Iron sharpens iron. So having two good youngsters battling against each other really won't do us any harm if we do get him. It solves the homegrown problem as well, as of his age and how long he'd be with us at the time. But it's kind of at the point now where we're like, okay, can we just stop talking about it and sign him if we're going to sign him, or can we move off him?
Yeah, definitely. I've got a little puppy hijacking me. You can't really see her because I'm wearing black and she's all black, but this is Anfield, aka Aini. But Colin, Lavia,
Yep.
you know, it's kind. I feel like a lot of people are recycling the same news, which is kind of maybe how the transfer world is working at the moment. But it's kind of solidifying everything. It would be a big shock if a journalist now did a U-turn and said, "Oh well, Romeo Lavia is now available. He's 60 million." Oh, Liverpool were never interested in Romeo Lavia. It seems like it is Romeo Lavia or nobody. My issue is the price tag. I would be more than happy spending 35 million on him if 15 million were add-ons. I think that's a reasonable deal, but you kind of got to look at Southampton's shoes. One, they don't really need to sell him. It's a big possibility that they do go up next season. Two, you look at the transfer market in general at the moment. You've got other DMs, Declan Rice, who's about to go for 100 million. Brighton, 100 million for Caicedo. The midfield market is crazy at the moment. Will they take anything less than 50 million? Who knows? But my ideal thing, I don't know about you, which we'll come to you, but I would like 35 million, 40 max with add-ons. But what about yourself?
In terms of price, I've kind of said from the beginning, I think that a deal might get done for like 36 plus, I don't know, anywhere between 4 and 6 in add-ons. I thought if they are inclined to sell, I think a deal could get done around there. And if it does, I'm very happy to do that at that price. I think you bring up a good point. It's like, are they pressured to sell though? I mean, I think not if someone doesn't meet their price, because I don't think that there are a lot of more reasonable, cheaper options, especially for the age and the overall potential of that player. I don't know, biding their time and just thinking that they're going to bounce back up. The championship is a dogfight, and there's always, I feel like there's always one or two teams that kind of come from nowhere and end up really making it an absolute war. So in their shoes, I mean, you hold on to him and he's going to hold his value. He'll be 20 next summer, or just about to turn 21. I don't think that they'll still have that amount of money to be able to sell him for then. So I don't think that they're necessarily pressured to, but you're right. I think it would be quite surprising if at this point we heard a journo, do a complete U-turn, or for us to totally drop out of interest with him. It's like a hurry up and wait situation though with Mbappe, and to see what's going to go on there and where the kind of money is going to be freed up by teams to spend to basically to fill that void. I mean, we saw that with when Neymar went, the kind of backfilling of transfer money from across Europe. So I have a feeling we're kind of hurry up and wait until that deal kind of sorts itself out.
Yeah, I mean, FJ Liverpool have got a really good relationship with Southampton. So, if there's any club you probably could strike a deal with for this, with, I think realistic add-ons are fair in this. Maybe, win the league, a certain amount of appearances. Easily, that can probably, get added on in the next 2-3 years, which is fair enough because hopefully in them 2 to 3 years he's a main starter and dominating the league. But it's such a big risk for a 19-year-old, isn't it? 50 million. However, you do kind of have to take these risks, especially in this market. But again, do we need to take a risk because we've kind of got loads of midfielders at the moment? So, what are your thoughts generally on Lavia? And do you think if a deal does happen, it will be very quickly similar to other deals that have happened with Southampton? Be easier to do it under wraps, quietly, and just announce it without, drawing Arsenal into a bidding war and Chelsea into a bidding war. Oh, you're muted, FJ.
I'm joking. I'm joking.
Uh-huh.
So basically, I actually think Lavia is a right signing. There's a reason why Arsenal want him. There's a reason why Chelsea want him. This guy, he's played in the Premier League. He's young. He'll fit into the Liverpool team. He'll play our Thursday nights for us. Fabinho's a perfect person to learn under. But 50 million is a lot. It is a lot. But if we don't pay the 35 to 40 million for him, what we're going to do? Go back into the market? Then try and look for someone. He's basically a person we want and we need. So if we get him, our midfield is balanced. Then all we have to care about is our defense. So I think he's the target and he wants to come to us. So it doesn't make sense. I see in the comments he's saying he's a Liverpool supporter. I don't know how true that is, but I saw the on the chat. But I think he is. I think he should be a good signing for us. 50 million. If I see Liverpool pay 50 million, I wouldn't go crazy about it, but he's a great player and potential and ability is very, very high. Very, very high.
I mean, Helio has said that he'll hire a hitman. I assume that's a joke. But if Liverpool pay 50 million for Lavia, I understand where you're coming from there, Helio, with Ugarte, but it's such a it's a big risk signing somebody from Sporting for 50 plus million. We saw it with Darwin Núñez. Look, he was good, but his price tag kind of his season was maybe a bit underwhelming for some. You
And
look at
our last two signings from Southampton, they've been good.
Exactly.
Our last two signings, they've been good. So if we make it free, or free signs from Southampton, what's the chances, But Charlie, what do you think? 50 million, are you signing him?
For 50 million up front, no. I just think it's too much to pay for a 19-year-old who is in the Championship. You've got to remember, that has taken money off his price. It happens with every player. It should happen with every player when the club goes to the Championship. They should have to sell the player for cheaper. That is the consequences of you being rubbish.
So if they don't budge from 50,
see you later. Go and sign someone else. Yeah, Thuram's sitting there for probably 45 million euros, 50 million at a push. Different kind of players. I agree, but then just don't move Bajcetic into the 8 role, which I think he's trying to do. I mean, I had this discussion. I assume if we sign Romeo Lavia, our options would be DM Fabinho Lavia, and I think Klopp will move Bajcetic into that left side 8 role, which he played really well at when Fabinho was playing with him. The whole thing with Bajcetic is he's still so young. He could stay 6'1" or whatever he is. There's also the opportunity that he could grow another 4 inches by the time he's 21. And he could become an absolute monster. I remember when Trent broke through, everyone was like, oh, he's too skinny, he's too weak. Yeah, mate, he's 18. What do you expect? It could ease. It's just, I think 50 mil is just a mad risk. As I said, I'm happy 35 million. Southampton, in my eyes, Southampton are asking for 70 million. Because if they were in the Premier League, they would be asking for more, and I just don't think that's reasonable. I think even if they were in the Prem, I think 50 million's an okay price. They're always threatening to get relegated. It's just I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking it, but ideal deal for me, 35, 40 million over 2-3 years. Then realistic add-ons like winning the Prem, Champions League, even appearances, stuff like that. But again, I think he'd love to join. Fabinho's getting on. He's 30 now, just hit 30, I think. So he's getting on. We need a backup for him. Is it going to be Pacetic? Will it be Lavia? Who knows? So yeah, well, it's a fun one. Moving on, we can move on to another midfielder we've been loosely linked with. But before that, if you're new, make sure you do leave a like on the video. It helps the channel out more than you know. So please do leave a like. Also, subscribe to the channel. We upload pretty much daily at 4 p.m. And we also stream. FJ, what time every night?
7:30 every night. Be here. Don't miss out. If you miss out, I don't know what to say to you. Don't miss out.
Yeah, so loads of great content coming up. Going to do a few more different type of streams next week, hopefully. So yeah,
Bobby. I see a comment from Bobby. What do you think about that one? It doesn't matter what league he plays in. If he's worth that amount, pay it.
I mean, Stephen, Colin, I'd like to hear your thoughts on this. I don't think so. I think if you are in a worse league, there's no way that player can perform at a level where he's worth 50 million.
I'd say yes and no. The more problem is it's not so much the league you play in, it's the player itself and how much you want to offload them for. It's not so much the player demanding to be sold at £50 million. It's the club demanding to sell him at £50 million. I'll take, for example, the NBA. If a guy wants out, he wants out, and the franchise will get rid of him for the best return that they can possible. Southampton not budging from £50 million tells me he probably is fine and happy to sit in the Championship for a year and fight for a promotion. But at the same time, if somebody turns around and coughs up £50 million for him, plus add-ons or however they want to structure the deal, I don't think they'll say no either. So I think the ball is in Southampton's court in relation to how they want to address the deal. I don't personally think he's worth £50 million, regardless of he's not. The player himself is not worth £50 million. He's come over from. Yeah, no, I'll let you rebuttal.
He was like one of the best players in that team. Him and Will Prowse were one of the best players. So maybe
it's not hard.
That's not hard when they're the last.
That's not hard.
Stop that, guys. He was one of the players.
They were relegated 3 months ago.
Somebody has to be the best player, FJ. Yeah. They can't all be rubbish.
So he can be a great player.
He might be the little dime in the rubble.
No, he could 100%. He could be. But given his playing time and that it's only been one season in the Premier League after he got moved from Man City, and they have a buyback clause next year of £40 million, Southampton want to cash in now if they can, because if they don't get back into the Premier League next season, he's gone either way. So realistically, Southampton want to cash in now before they lose him for £40 million. So it's the club pushing that rather than that. And if they don't get anybody, I'm sure he's quite happy to sit there and go back to Man City and learn under the likes of De Bruyne and everybody there in 12 months' time. Like, as you said, he's not even 20 yet, maybe even 21 by the time the next season finishes. So he's got another 10, 15 years ahead of him. He can sit for a year. There's no problem with that. If Liverpool want him, they'll have to negotiate the price down. If Southampton will not budge on the price, we need to move on. There's other players in that could very easily be taken for the same, if not less money, that have larger resumes and more information about them.
Colin, your thoughts?
I think the league and the league that you're playing in does the price that someone is paying for it is taken into consideration. The league is taken into consideration by that price. I think that just is. I think that's kind of just a fact of like the business end of it. Now, his situation is a little different because he did play that well, and we've seen him play that well in the Premier League. So like we have the evidence that he can play in an admittedly absolutely horrendous team. But he can play that well. I just think like just as a vacuum, like it does matter. Like if he was playing, if he was the same player, if he was playing in MLS, you'd be like he's definitely not worth that. Like he's
You've got
nobody.
to, sorry, I'll just like counter something, not counter, but like add on to your point. If he is playing in the Championship, he is playing against Championship and League One players.
Yeah.
There is a reason why the likes of Alex Scott will probably only go for 20 million or whatever, and that is a lot. It's because they are playing against not professional footballers, but these people are on like, there's people in that league that are on like 500 quid a month. Like the bruisers, they're Championship and League One players. They're not technical, so you can't prove anything with that.
Yep.
Like someone could easily ball out in the Championship and make the step up to the Premier League, and it'd be horrendous. It has happened more times. There's more failures in the Championship than there is successes.
Yeah.
So, but sorry, go on, Colin.
And I think that they run a big risk by holding him. They're making a big statement and basically saying that we're gonna go up next year, because if they don't, his 40 million price, that's the most that they're gonna get for him.
I think it drops even further. I don't think Man City will pay that.
Right.
If they don't get promoted, he could easily drop down
he's-
to 25, 30 million.
Correct.
Because there's no way Man City will pay 40 million. One, he wouldn't get in the team. We've got to remember, Rodri is 26 years old. This guy is there for the next 7-8 years. Sorry,
we're not the only team that's after him. We are not the only team after him. So if we're doing, maybe someone's gonna come and snatch him off us. There's other teams on him there's a reason why.
You can't be held hostage though, FJ. Like, there's got to be a point where you have to be like, okay, there's other options out there. Maybe we don't, maybe
what we need. He's not upset to play the bench role, do our play on Thursday nights for us, learn under Fabinho. He's ready for that, and he wants to do that. It's hard to get that.
The thing is that if any of those other teams who are interested, and we know that they're interested, and there's been documentation of that, right? If any of those other teams were absolutely convinced that he was worth the 50 million, they would have just paid it by now.
Yeah,
he wouldn't be a Southampton player now.
They just would have paid them the money if that's the price tag they're asking, and the other teams are 100% convinced that he's the right guy, and he's absolutely worth it at 50. They would just would have done it by now.
I want to mention something here too from Bossman James. I think you're being harsh. Anyone who knows football can tell Lavia is special. If he was homegrown, he would be putting 100 mil price tag on him. Not to tear apart your comment, but Lavia is under 21, so he doesn't even get put on the list for next season. And after next season, he is homegrown. So you're basically saying he should be 100 million, which isn't true, because we're arguing that he's not worth 50 million, and I think that there's a lot of aspects about it. One, he plays for Southampton in the Championship. 2, he's 19. 3, he's just being part of a relegated team. Like there's a lot of ifs and buts, and it's just a big risk to pay. And I think people, especially clubs who you look at the teams who are interested in him, Chelsea need to get back on the horse. They cannot rely on a 19-year-old DM. They just can't at the moment. Arsenal have just bought Rice, so he probably doesn't start. Even if he does, they're fighting for the Premier League, and they're in the Champions League. They're not going to rely on a 19-year-old. Man City, they don't need him. Let's be honest. They're selling, youth talents left and right. They've probably got one hidden away there. And you look at Liverpool, are probably the only ones who could be like, come in, get yourself 20, 30 games a season this next season. And if he wants to move, he's going to have to kind of push it a little bit, I think, because I just don't think Liverpool meet 50 million. I think they have a price in mind. and they're hoping that their relationship with Southampton can do that. And look, they will. I don't know how negotiations work, but they will probably bring up all these points to Southampton, saying this is why we're not spending 50 million on him. And bring up certain things, but it's. We could and we could talk about Lavia forever. So
the whole midfielder market is at such an inflation point at the moment. Like,
Declan Rice ruined it.
He did, and I think
I'm Bellingham as well.
Yeah,
and Bellingham, but more so because it's an English team to an English team. I feel like there's an inflated tax there. They're charging us as if they were still in the Premier League. That's what I think is quite funny about it.
They're charging us based on his performances last year. They're like, look at what he did for us last year and how he performed, and that's
we got relegated.
That's what you should charge. That's what they're charging for. And I mean, the idea that Caicedo would go for anything more than honestly anything more than 50. Like, he's a great player, but like the fact that we're like discussing they won 100. That's insanity.
You can thank McAllister for that.
Yeah,
definitely 70 million minimum.
I think it's 80 million minimum. I don't think
definitely. Definitely.
That's
insane.
That's Tony
100
Bloom's
is crazy. 100 is crazy, but 70, 80.
The thing is, Tony Bloom is a very good negotiator, and he's very shrewd. He come up through the betting world. That's how he made his money. With betting. So analytics, the guy knows what he's doing. He knows that Chelsea, one, have money, and two, need a DM again. So he's saying, look, you either have him or don't. I'm not bothered. We're in the Europa League. I can use him next season. So that Tony Bloom's funny, and I think his life and goal is to just get as much money as he can out of Todd Bowley, which fair enough. I don't blame him. But anyway, we'll move on from Lavia, because I'm sure we'll talk about him tomorrow or
the next
Tuesday.
day.
So when somebody else says, oh, Liverpool won him, thanks. Okay, anyway, if you are new, we have nearly 100 people in here. Make sure you do leave a like on the video. It helps us out so much. Also, subscribe to the channel too. But next, Marcos Llorente, Atletico Madrid. Liverpool have been linked with him a fair few times over the years. Getting on a bit now. Maybe that's a bit harsh. He's 28. But he's not the 24-year-old he was when he was breaking onto the scene. Obviously, sore memories when it comes to Marcos Llorente. When Adrian bottled the round of 16, was it, a quarter final? When we nearly come back against Atletico Madrid, he obviously scored, and subsequently named his dog Anfield, which
Did he,
yeah. So bit of sour blood there, FJ. But at the moment, of reporters just saying he's on our radar. I feel like it's just kind of a name that's getting thrown out there. I think with Szoboszlai and McAllister, maybe he's not probably needed, is he?
No, not really. We've been linked to him a few times. He is a good player. Nothing crazy. He's a good player, got the legs, can play multiple positions. But I think just a little talk here and there, But he's a nice player. But I doubt if we ever go for him, how much will we ever go for him for? And but he's a nice player, but I doubt I don't think we need him. We don't even need someone like him. We need a defensive kind of player now. A defensive-minded kind of player right now. So, yeah, I don't think we really need him.
Yeah, Stephen, he can play right back. Is that maybe a draw for you?
I noticed that myself as well. Yeah, I noticed that myself as well. The price the transfer market have him for is about 35 million euro, which for a 28-year-old, which saying over the hill, Charlie, with me being 28 is a bit hurtful. But
I'm just so used to. I'm. You know what? If football's ruined me, I'm so used to just like great
when you're 30, you're done.
Now. Yeah, but because you look at the likes of Musiala, Bellingham, Pedri, Gavri, like these aren't just good young players. These are world class, best of the best. Like they're performing from the ages of like 19 to 23. I'm just so used to being like, 28-year-old, but you've still got one big contract there until you're like 32, 33. So I'm being very harsh, but that's just me.
No, he is. So he majority of the time he played his positions right in the center of midfield, orchestrating stuff from there. He's a good player. He's nothing really special. For the €35 million price tag the transfer market have him at, I wouldn't necessarily be angry at it if we did go in for him now. But the problem is it doesn't really solve the homegrown issue. He's good on the ball. He's a great passer. He has an astounding amount of touches in the opponent's penalty box. And he also contributes to an awful lot of assists from that. He's good at progressing the ball forward, good take-on guy. But he, as I said, he doesn't really add anything that we haven't already added. We'd just be adding more of the same, realistically. And he's fine. He's not magical. It will be an okay one. It could be a fallback option, I suppose, like a last minute sort of a look, we need depth, let's get him kind of a way. Because as it stands with the likes of Szoboszlai and McAllister and Fabinho and then Curtis and Harvey and then we have Stefan and it's quite a deep midfield as it is, but obviously you can never have too many players there for depth. I think it's probably a last sort of a resort. He can play a right back, but he hasn't really done that all that often. I think about 80% of his time has been spent right on the centre circle. He hasn't really deviated from that much. Played a little bit of right centre midfield and right midfield, but if he's available for €35 million, which works out at about £28 million, thereabouts, I wouldn't be angry if we did do it much later on in the window, but as of right now, it should definitely not be a priority.
Yeah, Colin, I think it's kind of, he is good defensively, plays in a Diego Simeone team. You've got to be okay defensively for that, which would mean he's probably would be one of our best midfielders defensive-mindedly. But I think with Trent now kind of playing this right centre mid role / right back, there's not really a need for him unless he was a proper DM, which, as Stephen said, he's not really. I think €35 million could probably be spent better.
There is absolutely no way that we are spending €35 million on a 28-year-old at a position where we have 4 people who could slot on that right side midfield. Regardless of the fact that he is flexible and he is really good defensively, he is willing to do the work. There's just no way. There's no way we're spending that amount of money on someone who is just going to be a depth option at his age. Which, yeah, Steven's right. It is hard. I as well. I'm 28. I was like, he's past his prime. So am I. But I just don't like not for the price. I think maybe that price could be overvalued. I think maybe Atletico Madrid, if they were interested in doing a deal, you could probably get it for 15, 20, something like that. But I still think that's like a bit much for someone who we don't necessarily need and isn't as flexible as, say, a James Milner.
Do we need another midfielder? All we need is a defensive midfielder right now. Do we need another midfielder that can go forward?
No.
Yeah, all we need is a defensive midfielder right now to help out Fabinho, to be honest.
It almost screams like if he's really dying for a move, maybe we get him on loan in the last week of the window, like an Arthur, or like, hey, let's get another body in, and like then we can sort something out permanently later. Because otherwise, I just don't. I like him. I wouldn't be mad if we, brought him in for less than 20. Like, I just don't think that that's something that is
something that I've noticed. Something that I've noticed a lot of people aren't really talking about is the change in the agent fees coming in at the start of this season. They're capping the agent fees percentage at, I believe, about 6 or 7%. So I think a lot of players are looking for a move, or their agents are putting feelers out there to see if there's going to be moves, because it's being put to the court of arbitration with UEFA and FIFA to turn it over, because agents won't be able to get their big paydays anymore. But guys that will be agents to a number of players might be like, just throwing some feelers out there. Would you go for 35 million here? Would you go for 50 million here? Would you go for this or that? Just to get a last big payday of a big percentage before it all goes up the river next year. I think that's not really being talked about an awful lot, which is why I think it's an awful lot of mindless chatter that's being done with a lot of names that everybody's being linked to, not just ourselves. And I really don't see that being talked about enough either on Twitter or any social media.
Yeah, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you have to also now, if you're an agent of a player, do a FIFA test course thing,
Yes. Yeah.
So
they had to redo it. A lot of guys had to redo it.
The likes of Mbappe's mum and stuff like that would have to do this, and who probably can't be bothered to do it because you've got to do a decent amount of stuff for it. So I'm happy about that. We spoke about Adragula, which is his agent fee that his dad got for him was more than his transfer fee, which is criminal.
What was it? I didn't see.
So his transfer fee. So they had a release clause of 18.5 million euros. Real Madrid paid 20 million euros, I think, but I think some of it's in add-ons, and I think his dad got 18 million pounds. So like 24, I think, million euros. It was more or the same. Which
just
is
for negotiating the deal, or negotiating for telling Real Madrid what he wants.
Yeah, so, it's absolutely crazy, and we do criticize FIFA a lot, rightfully so. But I think bringing in one, caps on agents' fees, and two, making sure they're compatible and competent to be agents is a good thing overall for football, and it's a good thing for Liverpool because we probably pay the highest agent fees. But going back on Llorente, I think if I was, I would sign Rodrigo de Paul over Llorente anyway. I think one, he's younger, two, he's got a bit of bite about him, and he will probably be cheaper as well. And
friends with Alexis,
exactly. So it'd be a good one. Who knows? Maybe he can bring Messi over after he's done for their season to sit on the bench.
Speaking of agents' fees.
Yeah, sorry, I thought he was going to say something and we bring blanked. But he's going to be like, speaking of agent fees, Messi, blah, blah, blah.
No, literally him.
Yeah, but we will move on to our next story, which is the title, Levi Colwill. Before we do go on, though, make sure you do leave a like on the video. It helps the channel out so much. Boost it in the algorithm, so please do make sure you leave a like and also subscribe with the bell notification on. Okie dokie, Levi Colwill, FJ. He is being talked about a lot. Liverpool are interested in him. Chelsea want to keep him. Liverpool obviously need a left-sided centre-back. We've been linked with a few. Goncalo Inacio, who has, I think, £38 million release clause. Mickey van der Ven, who looks, I think while we've been streaming, has pretty much been confirmed going to Spurs. So good signing for them. But Levi Colwill, obviously English, just won the European Championship under 21 without conceding a goal. Give away a penalty, but was not a penalty. We've been speaking about him a lot in our chat. It seems Chelsea don't want to sell him under any circumstances, and it probably looks like it's going to be a record transfer fee. Minus Gvardiol, obviously, who's close to joining the City, which is going to push it over 18 million. For a 20-year-old, 80 million for someone who's never played for Chelsea yet. That's a big... We've been talking about risk with Lavia. That is a monumental risk if Liverpool were to do that.
Wow. Me personally, I won't. I think, was it last night when him and Mudieke was on Insta Live? I think it was on Instagram Live. And Mudieke was saying that I want to bring him back. I'm going to bring him back to Chelsea. I think he was saying I want to bring him back to Chelsea. So I don't think he's going to come to Liverpool. I think his mind's set. I think this is just all these speculations is just going to put more money in his new contract for Chelsea. Like, I don't think Liverpool are going to spend all that money for a 20-year-old. Even though he's went on loan, he's done Brighton, he's done all right. He's nice left-footed, he's decent on the ball, composed, good passing, long-range passing. He's a nice player. Another potential player like Lavia. But I don't think Liverpool are paying that money. No.
Do you not think, FJ, though, it looks like we're going to be going to a kind of back three like we did towards the end of the season? You know, we played Robertson there and it caught us out a few times. Colwill could come in. He would play at that left. Starts off left back, but going to left centre back next to Virgil van Dijk. Yes, 80 million is a hell of a lot of money, but if you weren't to sign him now, he will stay at Chelsea most likely for the rest of his career until he wants to move somewhere else and is the best centre back in the world and would cost 150 million, or two, doesn't kick on and doesn't become a good player and obviously move somewhere else. So
that's the risk I'm going to take. That's the risk I'm going to take. I won't take that risk, to be honest. Even though he's he looks good and he looks like he's going to be good. Under Van Dijk as well? Oh my days. Under Van Dijk, he can learn anything, everything. But 80 million, 70 million, too much of a risk, to be honest. Too much of a risk.
Olu said here, if we sign Colwill, we'll have Matip replacement. I don't think so. If we sign Colwill, this is the Virgil van Dijk replacement that we probably should be buying next season or the season after. The big name player. Obviously, we all wanted Gvardiol, not happening. But Stephen, the lensman, says here, we have to buy Colwill. Better than Inacio, Stephen? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, considering Colwill played a grand total of 13 games worth of minutes last season, I wouldn't necessarily be all that impressed.
How many games?
13. His minutes total to 13 or 14 games. So as much the way I would evaluate a player, and obviously I'm not in any sort of a professional position to do this, but from my own amateur viewpoint on it, you're only as good as your last game, but that doesn't tell the whole story either. You could have had 10 terrible games and one good game. That doesn't make you a great player all of a sudden. Is he a good player? Yes, of course, 100%. I'm not disputing the fact that he's a good player. It's the price tag, and it's the same with Romeo Lavia. I'm not disputing that they're not good players. The price tag is the issue that I have with them. If Levi Colwill came in for somewhat of the same prices as an Inacio, I could have a little bit more truck with it. But because you have more information on Inacio, how he's performed, and I understand the disparity with the Portuguese league with Sporting and everything, and are somewhat burnt with Darwin Núñez, although I think he's going to come good this season. I think Colwill at that price, first of all, is out of our range. Pochettino is looking to meet with him next week to have talks about Colwill's demands and Poch's demands of Colwill, and see what he wants to do and everything. I don't think Chelsea are going to sell him. It's going to be an all-out war to try and get him in the first place. And I think it's time, energy, and money that could be better spent elsewhere and focusing on our own team rather than trying to get him in. I think Inacio will be a much better signing, and I'm, again, blue in the face of saying it, he would be my dream signing for this transfer window. He would be the Van Dijk replacement. He could come in there, play. He's 6'1", 6'2", big stocky frame. He's fantastic at carrying the ball forward, great with long passes, has an ungodly amount of shot creating chances for a centre back, which is very, very unusual. So if you think the likes of him playing a long ball up to the likes of a Salah, like we already have Trent on one side firing long balls cross pitch, all of a sudden now we have Inacio firing a long ball across pitch to the likes of Salah or the likes of Diaz, or straight up to the middle through Gakpo or even Szoboszlai or Núñez. Like there's an awful lot of variety there in how he can attack, and he's great defensively too. He's proven, is more my point. Colwill, while has been great recently,
proven in what league? He might come here and just get skipped. He might come here and might just go crazy for him.
Okay, but would you rather spend 80 million on a guy that could get skint or 35 million on a guy that could get skint?
You got a point there. You have got a point there.
That's what I mean.
Hard it is. But the levels of players that they're playing against in that league, if he comes here, it's because and the role that Klopp will want him to play. Is he used to that role? Is he used to it? He has to get used to it.
It's again, that comes down to the resume that the player has. We know virtually nothing about Levi Colwill in the Premier League. As I said, 13 games, whereas Inacio has up on about 135 games or something like that. He has 10 times the amount of professional first division games that Levi Colwill has. Could Colwill turn around and be worth 150 million in 5, 6, 7 years' time? He could. So could Inacio, because we've seen none of us are shamans and we can't tell the future. But I would rather take £80 million, put it into both a midfielder and an Inacio, and get 2 players rather than spending it all on Colwill. That's just my 2 cents on it. And you can think Colwill is better, but for the price that he's been advertised and how much of a battle we're going to have with Chelsea over it, I genuinely do not think it's worth it for the effort, time and money we're going to have to put into it.
Colin, Brighton bid 40 million for him, got rejected, walked away because they got told not even close. Stephen mentioned it there. It's going to be a big battle to even get him. I spoke to Alex Goldberg today. Little teaser for a video next week. He thinks the only way this transfer theoretically happens is if Levi Colwill doesn't turn up for preseason and says, "I will not play for Chelsea. I want to move," which is suicide for a young footballer's career, unless he has a contract with Jurgen Klopp that says he will sign for Liverpool. There's so many things going against it. Chelsea have got him for 2 years plus 1, so 3 years basically. They have him for. They don't need to sell him to a direct rival. If you do, that's an extra probably 10-20 million onto it just to sell him to us. And it's going to take up a large amount of the summer trying to negotiate with Todd Bowley, who we know doesn't know anything about football. So it does seem like a bit of a dead end. I think it's a very much a pipe dream. But on the other hand, Liverpool could go out all for it. And then if it doesn't happen, be like, all right, whatever, we tried. Let's activate Inacio's release clause, and they kind of have to accept it, and we'd probably give him enough money. So it's Colwill for me, as much as I would like it to happen, maybe not for 80 million, just doesn't seem realistic this summer, does it?
Not for the price. And it's a shame that Stephen went before me, because he made so many good, succinct points. And he made so much business sense about why it's not going to get done. And you're right. I think it only is going to happen if he turns up to Chelsea and says, "I'm not playing. Get me out of here. I'm not going to play." And I think then on top of that, I think that they would have already need to have committed to spending 80 on a midfielder, or 70 on a midfielder, whether that be Caicedo or whatever else. I think they would need to be pressured to be able to kind of make their monetary troubles go away in terms of financial fair play. So I don't think that's a lot of factors that all need to fall into place, and then Liverpool need to cough up whatever the money would be, which I have no faith in them doing. There's no chance we're gonna just cough up 80 for a 20-year-old. Although I love Levi Colwill, I want him, sign him up right now. I want him on the team.
It's a shame because he's a Liverpool fan as well. Yeah. I don't know if anyone saw it. Somebody went back on his Twitter about 4 years ago, and every single one of his likes is from Liverpool. The Anfield rap, Redmen TV. Correct. Just live. His dad is a massive Liverpool fan. I think he's mentioned it before. And he said that his idols growing up is Steven Gerrard, which we got suckered into that with Jude Bellingham. It will not happen again. It will. It definitely will. But
it will. I will get my hopes up again.
Yeah, I think that's the. If you hear someone say who's relatively good, oh, Steven Gerrard, he was my idol growing up. Liverpool fans will latch onto that and not let go. Doesn't matter who you are. But FJ, comment here from Richard. What about Gahey or Tomori? Obviously, two of the Chelsea ex-players. I think Tomori probably a bit out of the price range. I think AC Milan would probably want upwards of 60 mil. But Tomori,
too rash. I don't want him though. Too rash, and he can't play that role. He can't play the role that we need. The left-footed. We need At the end of the day, we need a left-footed centre back or a left-footed left back that can play centre back. If we get a defender right now that's right-footed, he's not gonna do that role that we need on that left side, you know. So Tomori's nice. I like him. He's young. I think England should take a look at him. England should take a look at him. I don't know what Southgate is looking at. He's nice, but Gaethje, his name Gaethje, he's all right. But nah, I don't think we don't want him. We don't want him. Colwill, nah. All of them are too expensive for us anyway. He's too expensive for us.
Yeah, definitely. I think probably our range for a centre back is max 40 million. I'm sure Stephen will be happy to hear this, but I genuinely think we have probably 3 targets. You probably were looking at Mickey van der Ven, Levi Colwill at the top of it, and then somebody else. If we fail to sign them, I do think Inacio is the fallback. I think they would be just happy. There's no negotiations for it. It's here you go. Here's 38.5 million, whatever it is. Take the money, give us the player. So, but we'll see. It's Liverpool been doing release clause.
We're almost there. Get one defensive midfielder and get a defender. Nice summer. Then we just get ready pre-season and get ready for the new season coming up.
Yeah, definitely.
Do we need more than 2 seasons?
I don't know, Stephen. Another midfielder and a centre back. Would you be happy with that?
I think that would give us enough cover. I think I seen somebody mention it earlier in the comments that while having Fabinho and Stefan is great, the problem is the age and experience gap. We need someone in the middle, and the likes of a Lavia could fill in that role. And obviously, as you mentioned, Charlie, Lavia going into that role would then move Stefan to the 8. Which is fine. He played fantastic there. I don't mind that at all. But realistically, we've seen with this Liverpool team and the way they want to run and the way Klopp wants to run them with gegenpressing and with constant pressure on the ball. We've seen it in the Leeds game, and Klopp even was hilariously falling all over the place watching Darwin Núñez in the centre circle with 3 other Liverpool players around him smothering a Leeds defender. And that was in like the 90th minute or something like that. Like, that's the level that Klopp wants from his players. And that's what's going to be expected. And with that much running, especially when you're playing Carabao Cup, Premier League, FA Cup, Europa League, and if you go far in those cup tournaments and far in the league as well, it's just going to get more and more games and more minutes, and minutes means injuries, and injuries means players got to step up. So you can never have too much depth on a squad, but at the same time you need to find that balance between number of players and level of experience
and happiness
too, because we don't want a situation. Those reports, obviously yesterday we talked about it in the stream, of the Kapran Thuram transfer talks kind of going cold due to both him being too expensive. I don't think it's the fee. I think it's more his demands as a player. And to be perfectly honest with you, I wouldn't want to sign somebody like that. It screams Mbappe's ego that he wants the sun, moon, and the stars. And I wouldn't want a situation like with United that Mason Mount comes in as a brand new signing, and at the time of the signing was the 4th highest paid in the team. And now with De Gea gone, he's the 3rd highest paid in the team. Realistically, the only person that deserves the wage that they get on the team, like we got Szoboszlai for less than half of what Mount is getting, realistically. So there's deals to be done out there at affordable prices that are well within our range. And I know it's something silly to be saying affordable prices with us being one of the biggest clubs and the most successful clubs in the world, but it's the cards we've been dealt with, the owners we have, and the financial plan and the financial selling and buying model that they have. It's what we have to deal with. And thankfully, we have a manager and a sporting director that can find diamonds in the rough, like Mane, Salah, Van Dijk. Everybody laughed at the Van Dijk signing when they were like, "Why are you signing him?" And all of a sudden, he nearly won.
No, wait. They didn't laugh at Van Dijk. They laughed at his price tag.
Yes, the price tag. That's what I mean.
About people's price tags now. Later on.
If Levi Colwill proves me wrong, I will happily admit it. I have no problem saying that I'm wrong. Or the likes of Lavia at 50 million. If he proves me wrong, I will happily admit it. But given the information that we have at the time, Like, we had an awful lot more information on Van Dijk at the time. Like, as I said, Levi Colwill only played 13 games technically in his minutes. So from that, it's hard to determine how he would project if you have such a small sample size. It's just not feasible. If you had a larger sample size, no problem. I'd be like, give him the money, pay the money, sign the check now, get him, no problem. But it's just we don't have the sample size from. We need depth. The midfield is our engine, and we need depth in the midfield to allow us to go back to 2020, 2019 and quadruple levels of play, because that's what...
How many midfielders do we have then?
So we have
we've got Fabinho, Pacetic, Henderson, McAllister, Szoboszlai, Jones, Thiago, Elliott, if you count him, and Tyler Morton. So 9, but probably Tyler Morton won't be there. So I think realistically, you probably need 3 players in each position, 3 DMs, 3 left centre mids, 3 right centre mids. So I think 1 more is needed. I think going back to Thuram, I genuinely think it's probably his dad, who again is his agent, saying with Marcus Thuram, who signed for Inter Milan, couldn't make an agreement with PSG, who pay unreasonable agent fees. So I do think it's probably his dad is asking for Lilian Thuram, obviously legendary French midfielder. But FJ, going on to Colwill, breaking news kind of. Fabrizio Romano, who's on a friend of the channel. I think his name's Amia. Sorry if I got that wrong, but used to be on the stream. Fabrizio Romano has just said this: Liverpool's interest in Levi Colwill is 100% confirmed and very strong, but it's very complicated, with Chelsea viewing him as a crucial player. The only way the defender leaves is if he directly asked to leave the club. I think Fabrizio's been listening to me, because that's exactly what I said. But it's probably not happening. But it's interesting that we are 100% interested in him.
It is interesting. Are Liverpool going to spend that amount of money on this player? Chat.
We all said that about Van Dijk.
I need to see the comments. Tell me. I want to see the comments. Is Colwill worth 80 million? Would you pay 80 million? If you think he's going to pay 80 million, put on 1. If you think he's worth 80 million, put 1. If you think he's not worth 80 million, put 2. I want to see this. If you think he's worth 80 million, put 1. If you think he's not worth 80 million, put 2. Because I don't think he's worth 80 million at all. He's not worth 80 million, but Liverpool are interested in him. Do we have to listen to them? Do we listen to him? Like, do we have to, like, I don't know. Is he worth 80 million? Oh, I'm sweating. Look, I'm sweating. They're getting me excited now.
I'm seeing a lot of 2s. I'm seeing a lot of 2s.
There's another one here.
If we thought that we had just money to blow, though, I think we might be saying something different. I think we are kind of, and Steven was kind of touching on this, we are kind of all understand the kind of financial situation and the financial model that we have and that we're in. If we were more accustomed to just blowing money and just signing people when we want him, there's the price, we paid the price. If we were more adapted to us doing something like that, I think we'd be like, yeah, he's worth it. Because it's not worth it to us at the moment, because we understand that if we pay 80 for him, we're probably not going to get another midfielder. Or we're not going to get we're mortgaging something down the line to get him for 80 at the moment.
I want to kind of bring up. Oh, sorry, Stephen. I want to bring up this. I'll pose it to you. Colwill could give you 10 seasons, and this is the same with every other transfer. He could give us 10. He could give us 15, probably even more. But you look at Virgil van Dijk. People are quick to forget that Virgil van Dijk, when we bought him, was the best centre-back in the league. He was with Southampton, balling out week in, week out. Everyone wanted him. We just had a good relationship with him. Levi Colwill is not the best defender in the league. He has played 17 games in the league, most of them being, not full games or being a substitute. Again, though, as we've mentioned, you're paying because he's English, you're paying because he's 20, but it's, you can go out there and get somebody who is performing at a decent level, who still has it. it's mental. There's no way we pay 80 million. I just don't see it. I think 60 million tops. But it is interesting. But sorry, go on, Stephen. You were going to say something.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with you. If his price came down to £40 million, no problem.
I think every single team in the world would be interested at that amount.
But if he's this next coming of the great savior of centre backs, why hasn't somebody already paid it? The same as the Lavia situation earlier. If he is legit on his very limited information and playing time so far, and if he is the next coming of Virgil van Dijk, and we all know how good Virgil was in his prime before his knee injury, nearly beating out the likes of Messi and Mbappe and Cristiano Ronaldo for a Ballon d'Or, why hasn't he been snapped up already? It's very, very simple as that. It's like, we're not professionals in any way, shape, or form of evaluating a player profile. The guys that are professionals at evaluating player profiles still wouldn't pay 80 million for them. So why should we even discuss it? If that's the point, like I get why we're talking about it, because it's a good player that we have links with and everything like that. But at the same time, he's not worth that. He's not. For his resume, how he's done, even though he's done well, it's not worth it by a long, long shot. If his name wasn't Levi Colwill and it was Dominic Garcia, he'd be worth 25 million, realistically. And if he wasn't coming from a different Premier League team and he was coming from the likes of a Schalke or a Villarreal or an Atletico, he wouldn't be worth anywhere close to £80 million. He'd be at max 40 million.
Yeah, it's kind of, I think, Damon's obviously taking the piss here saying FSG wouldn't pay £10 for him. At the end of the day, we probably have 80 million to spend in the rest of the summer transfer window. With the centre-backs we were linked at around 40 million and the midfielders we've been linked with 40 million. Obviously, there's exceptions to that, with Colwill being one of them. I think if we were to sign Colwill, we wouldn't get another midfielder. And I think, I do think we need another midfielder and a centre-back. So I think my preference would be to get an Inacio and a Lavia or a Thuram. Kone would be perfect if he wasn't injured as well. Another thing I really want to bring up, Romano's just said there, we'll talk about it later in the week, but he's just said Thiago looks like he's staying at Liverpool, basically. He wants to stay, and the expectation is that he remains at the club. I am fine with that as long as it doesn't block a signing, because Thiago will not be here next year, and he's probably not going to play as much this year either, because we've signed two players who can basically play his position. The guy's made out of Weetabix. I'm fine with it. What are your guys' thoughts? Are you okay with Thiago staying if he doesn't?
He needs to stay. For me,
if it blocks a signing, no, FJ, if we don't get that third centre mid in.
Because there's no other kind of player like McAllister. They both can do the same role, but Thiago is actually a baller. He's actually
for 10 games a season.
Yeah. He's not fit. How old is he? 32, 31, 32?
Galatasaray put in for him, I'm nearly sure. I think there was some fairly lucrative offer. I think it was reported earlier on today that Galatasaray sent a decent
Saudi Arabia too. I reckon you could get what you paid for him at the end of the day, which considering he's been at the club 3 years now, the fact that we can still get 20 million and he has probably only played about 30-40 games for us in that time. The fact we can still get 20 million, he's aged 3 years, he's probably got worse fitness-wise because the fella was barely injured at Bayern Munich, so he's come to us and picked up Liverpool. Sorry?
Would you sell him?
Easily, mate. I've said I'd sell him for 10 million.
If somebody came in with 10 to 20 million pounds and said we want Thiago, I'd drive him to the airport myself. He's a fantastic player.
He is one of the top earners at the club as well, 200 grand a week.
I like Thiago, but
I love Thiago. I have said
passion.
I have said that Thiago is probably the most technically gifted player I have ever seen in midfield at Liverpool. He is silky, but he's 32. He's made out of sticks.
At the end of the day, would break him.
Exactly. And this season, it's not looking like we have much to fight for. you know, and even if we did, he wouldn't be available anyway. So ship him off. Why lose him for free next year and pay 200 grand a week when you know that he's not going to be a player for you next year?
Yeah.
Cash in on him, get 15, 20 million, give that game time to a new signing or Curtis or Pacheco. You know, it's injuries are an issue. We've been too loyal with the likes of certain players. It cost us because they then went and got injured. We need to get out of this habit of being like, oh, I like you as a person. But
we do give out to Klopp an awful lot for that, but we're fairly guilty of it as well.
Yeah.
I can guarantee if he stays, it'll be a Naby Keita situation. There'll be a new injury every day. He's pulled a muscle walking to the team bus. Like, that kind of a way. Like it's going to be one of those situations. I would much rather cash in on him now, open up first of all a non-homegrown spot too, if he goes. So that solves using our last one on the likes of an Inacio or a Thuram. So that solves that issue. And then you have the likes of, we were talking about it yesterday. There's some outgoings that are going to happen. I wonder, one of the ones that I think is going to happen, I think Costas goes, unfortunately, due to he's already getting limited minutes behind Robertson. How more limited is it going to be now with a left-footed centre-back coming in and taking over more minutes there? I think he might want to go and get first team minutes elsewhere. He deserves it. Nat Phillips as well deserves it. Kevin Kelleher deserves it as well. He deserves first team minutes elsewhere. A thought that entered my head earlier was like, I wonder would Southampton take another Irish keeper to see if he'd do any better down there. But Thiago, as gifted and as special of a player as he is, and on his day is the single best midfielder outside of Steven Gerrard that I've ever seen put on a Liverpool shirt. It's the problem is availability is a skill in itself, and unfortunately,
better than Xavi, Alonso, better than Mascherano, better than.
Technically, I think so. I mean, Colin, I'll end with you. You know, Helio's made a good point here. Selling Thiago because he's a luxury player, 200 grand a week, and then buying a third DM. You know, you probably look at the team and Thiago's barely ever available for it, and when he is available, he's nursing injuries or coming back to fitness. So automatically, he's behind McAllister, Jones, and especially if we bring in another one. But and as well, not to mention, it could also block a midfielder that we need to bring in. We all said we needed 3 midfielders. If Thiago not going blocks that, I'd be kind of annoyed.
Yeah, I think the math in terms of overall how many players we need across, if you count three windows, so this summer, this upcoming winter, and next summer, I think we need a minimum of 4 midfielders across those 3 windows to come in. And honestly, without anybody going out, I don't think we necessarily need more. So if Thiago's staying, I could see them not getting another midfielder now, but I don't think that changes the fact that like we understand that if he's staying, he's going for free, and we need another body regardless. We will need someone to replace that spot. So I don't think the math changes overall for those 3 windows. We need 4 across those 3 windows. If they all come now, sure, that's great, whatever. If they come 2 now, 1 and 1, it still ends up, and that's the replacements across this like 12-month, 14-month period. I'm with you guys. I would cash in now.
Yeah, cash in now. Yeah,
but I can understand why they wouldn't, in terms of his,
leadership.
In terms of his leadership. Yeah,
bro, he's got experience. He's knowledge.
We were talking about this with the Henderson. Like, I understand that we have been so bad with cashing in when we have an opportunity to make money back on the investment of a player that we have. We've been terrible at it, and it has definitely hurt us. But also, I think that there's a risk that you run if you totally overhaul in one season, that this season then becomes a big learning curve for a lot of people. And I think in the end, we would end up better. I
think it'll be hard
given that game time to younger players or to people that could really use it to boost their careers. But I
think
can
it'll be-
understand from
I
that
think
club
it's
perspective.
because if someone comes in for him, they'll come in for him, but he's getting 200k at Liverpool. Like, would he accept it? I think he'll probably stay last year of the contract, and probably he knows his next contract is nowhere going to be near 200k.
It will though if he's going to Saudi Arabia and he's already got offers.
Yeah,
I don't. That's why I don't think it's a money thing, and that's why I don't get it. But FJ, on your leadership thing, I don't like. Not against you, people use it, but I just don't like that point. You look through our squad, the amount of national team captains we've got in our team is actually crazy. Or people who have been captains. Alisson is one of the biggest leaders in our team. He was captain at other teams. Joe Gomez was captain at every single youth level with England, under 21, under 18s. Kostas Tsimikas is Greece's captain. Virgil van Dijk is obviously Netherlands captain or vice captain. Trent Alexander-Arnold should be our next captain, I believe. I think we should be weaning him into that. Dominic Szoboszlai is Hungary's captain. Fabinho, again, was Monaco's captain at one point. Very, very vocal, a big personality. Jordan Henderson and Cody Gakpo as well was PSV's captain at like 19. That's like
Andy
10
Robertson.
leaders.
Andy
And Andy Robertson.
But none of them have ever gone through what he's gone through. He went through Barca. From Barca, he went through Bayern. From Bayern, he's gone everywhere.
And I get why people say that, but you look through our team, we have got so many players who have won the Premier League, who have won the Champions League, who've won the Club World Cup, who've won the Super Cup. That's enough experience, enough. Like, I guarantee you, Thiago is not in the conversation to be a vice captain or a captain. Like, you've got Virgil van Dijk there, you've got Trent Alexander-Arnold, you've got Andy Robertson, you've got Alisson, who is meant to be a massive character. You've got...
yeah. But, okay, so after Van Dijk, who you put in Alisson?
Yeah.
I'd put Alisson. But if you said to me, Jordan Henderson is not the captain this season, I want Trent as captain, Virgil as his vice captain, and Alisson then as the third deputy, the James Milner role.
Captain, yeah?
I'd give Trent captain. Why not? What is it to risk? We have so many leaders on the pitch. It is basically a free role. The guy, he just can't. He can just do what he wants. Like, he can. Our captain isn't going to be like, oh, let's change this system up. It's not like cricket. It's not like American football. Like, the manager says do something, you do it. The captain now, as we've seen with Jordan Henderson, just kind of G's the squad up. Like, you look at the likes, look at every other captain on every other team. What are he doing? Martin Odegaard's not sitting there doing all mad things, is he? Bruno Fernandes.
That's what I'm saying. There is no captains no more in this league.
Oh, definitely. I think Trent, though, would be. I think Jordan Henderson is probably one of the only traditional captains.
Hendo's the best captain in the league. Probably Hendo.
Yeah, definitely. But
Gundogan's all right. But I'm talking about the heart. Like, every game, he's leaving his heart on that pitch.
Yeah, but again, as you've said, we're moving away from that as a footballing nation. So why does it matter? Like, if you have a pitch full of leaders, then you should be fine. But we could go on about this. We've been going for longer than I expected to. So we are going to end it there, guys. FJ, Colin, Stephen, thank you so much for joining us today. Again, guys, if you're new, make sure you do leave a like on the video and subscribe. Hopefully, daily videos are 4 p.m. every single day, so get the bell notification on. And we're live every single day at 7:30, as FJ loves to tell you. I'll give you a little teaser if you're still around. Got Alex Goldberg, Liverpool. Alex Goldberg is going to give us an expert analysis on Levi Colwill. Really, really good video. He has connections to Levi Colwill. I spoke to his dad and to Levi Colwill and other under 21 players, and our very own FJ, who is here, has got a new show next Sunday. I'll tease it a little bit more, but it's going to be great. You definitely don't want to miss it. 7:30.
Be here. 7:30. Be here next Sunday. I got a nice show for you guys. Be here. Let me not kill it. I got a new guest host with you guys. Yeah, so come here 7:30. Don't. And you see the comments. I need the comments to be going. Talk to us. We talk to you back. But yeah, 7:30. Thank you for tuning in today as well. Don't be late next week. Make sure you're here at Transfer Central. Yeah, make sure you're here. Trust me. Woo.
Definitely. But I've been Charlie. This has been the LFC Transfer Room.